What's up, guys? My name is Jedith. We have some more Devourer Demon Hunter news to look at. We have a lot of new information that has come out over the past couple days that we didn't have on the very first day that this was announced. So if you're not up to speed, the Devourer is a new spec coming to Demon Hunter for the Midnight expansion. Well, it actually might be a little bit before that, and that's something we're going to talk about in this video. It's still a Demon Hunter, but instead of using Fel magic, it uses Void magic. We have a bunch of stuff to look at today. There was a panel that happened at Gamescom last night where they did a little showcase on the Devourer spec and everything it entails. There's also a little video posted that highlights some of its abilities, and we can see the animations for those abilities, and it kind of tells us a little bit as to how they might work. We have a lot of information to look at, so let's dive into it. But first, a quick message from today's sponsor, Pork Bun. Pork Bun and Proton are teaming up to change the game for secure domains and email hosting. Pork Bun has already been the place to get domain names because of their low prices and unmatched customer support. Now, with Proton in the mix, they're able to protect your workflow with Proton Mail at an exclusive discounted price. You're getting the best solutions in the world from both providers. If you're a developer, entrepreneur, freelancer, or just somebody looking for a more secure online presence, your email is your first line of contact, and it's important to take it seriously. It's crucial for that email to be private, reliable, and totally secure. No one is impressed by your @gmail.com or @hotmail.com accounts. It doesn't look professional, and it makes you look like you do not know what you're doing. Proton Mail works across all devices you have, so you can manage your inbox anywhere, anytime. Get your domain at Pork Bun, then add Proton Mail to get Proton Mail Essentials or professional plans starting at just $5.99 per month for the first year. It's easy to do and starts at porkbun.com. Get secure, reliable email that protects your privacy from Proton and Pork Bun. All right, so we're going to be looking at everything Devourer Demon Hunter today. I'll put this article down in the description of this video if you want to watch it yourself or read through it and look at the pictures. This is just Wowhead's main sort of landing page for Devourer. It has images that we got on the very first day. It has the breakdown of what some of these abilities are, and we're going to see these in action in just a minute here. Reap, Voidblade, and Hungering Slash, Collapsing Star. We learn a little bit more about Collapsing Star in the panel that we're going to look at. Void Ray, which we now know is basically Devourer's version of I-Beam, and of course Void Metamorphosis, which gives us a new fancy demon form to use. So the first thing I want to look at is the hero talent setup. So we were speculating this in the last video as to like where the new hero tree is going to land in between which specs, and we were pretty spot on. If we look at the image on the screen here, we have the Havoc Demon Hunter up in the top right, we have Vengeance down at the bottom, and then we have Devourer up in the top left. So this is the new hero talent tree right here, Annihilator. So we can see that Devourer and Vengeance are going to be sharing the Annihilator tree. And we learned a little bit more about Annihilator in the panel that happened at Gamescom. Essentially what it is you're pulling down comets from the sky, big void comets if you're a Devourer. And if you're Vengeance, they're obviously going to be Fel comets. We don't know the mechanics of it yet, but that's what it is focused around. So the question that we had in the last video was, how are Felscarred and Eldrazi Reaver going to be positioned, and how are they going to be shared? So this kind of answers our question. So we can see here that Havoc and Devourer are going to be sharing Felscarred, but as we stated in that last video, we can't really call it Felscarred because Devourer doesn't use Fel magic, it uses Void. So that means we are probably getting a rebrand for Felscarred to just Scarred, which seems fitting. So Havoc is going to keep Scarred and Eldrazi Reaver. Vengeance is going to have Annihilator and Eldrazi Reaver. And Devourer is going to have Scarred and Annihilator. This is the setup. This is the confirmed positioning of the hero talents for Demon Hunters now that we actually have a third spec. So that's really cool to see. And I do like this icon for Annihilator. It looks, it's kind of hard to see, but it's kind of a demon guy with wings in the back and some long horns and some void comets coming down from the sky. Super cool. I'm hoping I can get a high def version of that at some point. If I do get one, you'll see it in the thumbnail of this video, so watch out for that. Now this right up here is a collection of information we've gathered over the past couple days through interviews and through panels. So a lot of this is brand new stuff. It's really interesting. So here is one of the big pieces of news. The Devourer specialization will become available with the Midnight pre-patch, with no prerequisites or unlocks required. That is super exciting. We're getting this for the pre-patch of Midnight and not on the expansion launch. So we'll get it ahead of time, we can play with it. It might overlap with Legion Remix. I'm wondering if that's gonna be the case or not. Interesting. Now this part is kind of crazy. This is going to make some people mad and some people will be intrigued, like I am. Devourers will be intelligence-based, with existing warglaives swapping between primary stats. As it stands, we are a leather agility class. I guess now if we play Devourers, we're going to be intelligence leather. I don't think this will be that bad because most gear just switches primary stat depending on whatever your class or spec needs. So all your same gear should work, especially warglaives. Like they've straight up said here that the warglaives will swap between primary stats, and most other gear does that as well. The only things that we'll have to get differently from our normal like Havoc setups or Vengeance setups will be trinkets, and depending on our itemization and, you know, our stat weights and whatever, you might want different rings or a neck or stuff like that. So it sounds like two-hand scythes will not be an equipment option, but are represented as visual flavor attached to certain abilities. Now, that's kind of interesting. We're not going to be using two-handed scythes as an actual weapon that we equip to ourselves like we assumed might be the case. This will just be something that shows up in our spell animations, kind of like the Frost DK scythe, if you can imagine that in your head, probably something like that. So Collapsing Star is the key ability used during Void Metamorphosis, which is only available while transformed. Players collect Void fragments in order to build up the star, which hurls a huge Void Bomb at their enemies. So we get into Void Metamorphosis, it puts us into Demon form, and then once we're in Demon form, we're able to use Collapsing Star by collecting soul fragments, probably up to a certain amount. There's something that we'll look at later that leads me to believe we might need 10 void fragments to do that, but again, we'll have to see. Devourers will typically play from mid-range, considered a ranged character for purposes of most encounter mechanics. Very interesting. So even though we're kind of halfway between full ranged and melee, if there's encounter mechanics that target ranged only or melee only, it'll count us as being ranged. Certain talents will also enable more hybrid mobile combat, periodically moving in and out of melee range. They shouldn't be constantly dashing in and out every 4 to 5 seconds, but enough to acknowledge the melee and mobility theme of Demon Hunters. So this 4 to 5 seconds is in reference to using the old momentum where we had to fell rush every like 6 seconds. They've understood at this point that that's not something that is widely enjoyed by most players, so not having to do that frequently is probably a good thing. Mobility is key to making a mid-range specialization work, being able to quickly move into melee or ranged clumps as needed. Obviously, Demon Hunters traditionally have a lot of mobility, so the developers have leaned into that idea to ensure they get enough tools to play at that mid-range level. So this is going to be a mobility spec. It'll be about blinking, zipping, bleeping around. So if that's something you didn't quite love about the current Havoc, you may not like this, but it could feel completely different. This could be something that is so out of left field and not even related to how Havoc plays that maybe you'll still enjoy it. That's highly possible. So the lead combat systems designer, Jade Martin, said, you kind of have two ways that you can play the Devourer. At a base level, you're basically playing mid-range and you're just considered a caster. That is how your rotation would work. You'd be casting your Void Ray. You'd be casting your Reap ability to collect the Void fragments around you, but we also recognize that one of the key elements to what makes a Demon Hunter is their ability to move around and the mobility that they have. And so we wanted to play into that with some of their talents that enable a hybrid build of moving in and out of melee combat at a decent cadence. This isn't something that you're going to be doing super frequently. You're not going to be doing it every 4 or 5 seconds. That would kind of be hard to get a bearing on your surroundings, but you will be hopping in and out to kind of play into that melee aspect and mobility of Demon Hunters. Now let's take a look at what those abilities look like. We can see they're casting something there. These wings, I'm assuming, are for Void Elves, because this is a Void Elf character. Void Elves are getting access to become Demon Hunters at the same time. That will also be accessible for pre-patch. I'm assuming these wings are for Void Elves in particular, but they could just be for Devourer. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, they look great. So you can see what some of the spell effects look like there. It's hard to see it like exactly what it is because it's so zoomed up. It's kind of like, you know, using artistic camera angles. Here we see the Demon Hunter using Void Ray, which is their version of I-Beam. And you can turn while you use it, just like you would with I-Beam. And these seem to be those Void fragments that you have to collect. So he's running around. He's able to pick them up manually by running over them. And this was really interesting. This looked like a Void Blink almost. I think it's called Void Shift. That's the ability that Adaris uses in the raid. I think it's Void Shift, Void something like that, but it's basically a blink. So that's Void Metamorphosis. That's the hunt. So the hunt is likely going to be a big feature. This video says that the hunt is now void charged, marking targets I don't know what that means exactly. That could mean that it could mean it's doing exactly what it does now, just by putting a dot on whatever it hits. It could also mean that maybe it's putting some type of debuff or, you know, damage increase debuff on the mob or something like that, a cosmic damage increase. But it is void themed and it is blue, which is kind of funny because I put out a video, God, months ago now, on how to change the animation for the hunt from green back to the old version, which was blue. And now we're going to have this version as well. I wonder if they're going to make a glyph to make it green after it's changed to this, or maybe this animation is only in Devourer and the hunt is different for Havoc, or maybe Havoc doesn't even have the hunt anymore. We don't know yet. This part is really cool up here. I want you to pay attention to what happens right there. So they're using some type of targeting thing, and what they're going to do is leap onto that void fragment, which is super exciting because that means this spec is going to have the hunt to move around. It's going to have this void blink, void shift thing, which is a directional teleport type of thing. And you're going to have a targeted leap, just like Vengeance has. So that's a lot of mobility that's in your hands and in your control. This is going to feel great. I can already tell it's going to be a blast to play. And then here you can kind of see the scythe in their hands. It's not the easiest to see, but it is there. Then they're going to shoot some big void bomb. Oh, here we go. We can get a better look at it here. So there's an ability called Reap, which doesn't use your warglaives, but it summons a scythe that also plays in the animation, and you can see it right there, that big blue scythe. So Reap is the ability that you use to kind of scoop up all of your soul fragments from around you. So you don't always have to be running around them and picking them up that way. There's options, right? You can run over them to pick them up if you want, or you can also use Reap and it'll suck them all in, just like how Fellblade does for AR right now. So here they've gathered up all of their soul fragments and they're going to let it all out in one huge burst of damage. There's Void Ray again. And now our big finisher is called Collapsing Star, channeling the death of a star. So from what I've heard, it looks a lot better than what's shown in this video, obviously because it's a little zoomed in. Collapsing Star gets bigger and bigger and bigger each time you use it consecutively. By the end of it, you are throwing these massive, like, comet star things at the enemies. So this is very exciting. It says the more you use Collapsing Star inside of meta, the more damage it does, which means this spec is going to be all about uptime and making sure you're staying in your demon form as long as you can to be able to use as many collapsing stars as you can. Okay, so now we got to look at the new talent trees. Of course, a lot of this is probably just placeholder, so I wouldn't read too much into it, but it does kind of give us an idea as to how things might be laid out or what they plan on doing, because if something is a placeholder now and it wasn't before, like if an old talent is now displayed as a placeholder, that means they're changing it or they're moving it somewhere. And this is definitely the case if we look at the Demon Hunter class tree. The capstones, essentially, all three of them have been replaced with a placeholder icon. So this was Collective Anguish, The Hunt, and Sigil of Spite. So those may or may not be there by the time we actually get to see this ourselves. And then if we scroll on over, we have the Annihilator hero talent tree. And what they're doing for this expansion is they're adding a whole nother column to each hero talent tree. So Scarred will get another row, AR will get another row, and we can see Annihilator here has its 4th row added. This top icon here for the class tree usually is Fell Rush. That does not look like Fell Rush. That kind of looks like a void thing. Maybe that's our void step, our void blink ability. Maybe Fell Rush gets replaced with that as Devourer. Anyways, back to the hero talent tree. We can't really make out much of what this is. It could be anything. There's obviously an ability at the top and then some other modifying talents underneath it. And then we get the Devourer spec tree, which again, we can try to just look at the icons and make some guesses as to what they are. Anything goes. A lot of these icons could just be placeholder, like the Hunt is down here, but it's the green icon, so that probably won't be the case. Up here we have what looks to be Void Ray. That's our main ability. Typically that is I-Beam for Havoc, but now it's Void Ray. So it looks like a lot of things have been shifted around, and as I expected, Demon Hunter as a whole seems to be getting a complete revamp, which means we can't jump to conclusions yet if we hear that Havoc is losing the Hunt, for example. We don't want to freak out at that yet. Maybe there's something else that they have planned to replace it. I'm not saying that Havoc is losing the Hunt, but I'm just using that as an example. Now, when we go into Midnight, the way that they're doing it is they're giving us 3 more points to use in our class tree, and those can be used anywhere. So if there were particular talents towards the bottom that you had to path through weirdly to get to, these 3 points will help with that. So we're getting 3 new points for the class tree. We're getting a new row in the hero talent tree, and then we're getting 4 points in the spec tree, and those 4 points can be put into the Apex talents. So the Apex talents are something new coming with Midnight, and essentially they are a single node. You can see an example of it right here. It's a single node that you can put 4 points into, and each point is supposed to be incredibly impactful, and we actually get a sneaky look as to what the Devourer, Demon Hunter, Apex points are. The first one, Collapsing Star, always critically strikes. That's super cool. We like that. Big booms. And then the next one is 2 points, so that's our next 2 points. All cosmic damage dealt increased by 6%, so we're getting even more damage packed into Collapsing Star and everything else that is cosmic damage. And then Collapsing Star's critical strike damage is increased by 100% of your critical strike chance. That sounds awfully familiar. That sounds like Havoc's talent, Know Your Enemy. But it is only on one ability here on Collapsing Star. That's our big anime finisher. So it really sounds like Collapsing Star is going to be hitting like a truck. If we're getting guaranteed crits, cosmic damage increased, critical strike damage is increased by 100% of your critical strike chance, and it does damage the more times you use it inside of meta, this thing is going to absolutely blast. And the final point in the Apex talent is entering Void Metamorphosis causes your soul to erupt, generating 10 lesser soul fragments and granting immediate access to Collapsing Star. So this is what I was saying earlier, where it kind of sounds like getting 10 soul fragments is the condition to be able to use Collapsing Star. So once you're in Void meta, you have to generate these soul fragments, and once you get 10, then you're able to use Collapsing Star. But with this talent, you get 10 right away, which gives you access to Collapsing Star immediately, rather than having to generate the soul fragments, pick them up, and then use Collapsing Star. And of course, the UI layout is still a work in progress. Like they said, it could look like this that we're seeing here for the Unholy Death Knight, or it could look like, you know, this, where there's just another detached row next to our spec tree. It could be anything. Now, this is just a better look at the class tree, and we can kind of see the icons a little bit better. It's still very blurry, but that definitely does not look like Fell Rush up at the top. And these do not look like Collective Anguish, The Hunt, or Sigil of Spite. It also looks like Fellblade might have changed. That looks a little bit different. I can't tell if that icon looks like the foot of Fell Rush or if it's something else. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. So that's everything we know for now until we actually get into the Midnight Alpha, which was announced at Gamescom to be coming probably the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I will have access to that. So if you want to see more information on the Devourer Demon Hunter, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this video. You can also join my Discord, where I'm constantly updating a channel there with all the new information I find. We have people there discussing Devourer Demon Hunter, how they think it might work. And of course, when we have the information, I'll be posting guides there and on this YouTube channel, of course. You can also stop by my stream. I'm streaming 3 to 4 days a week over on Twitch. I'll put a link down in the description as well. You can come by and either see me playing this in action, or you can ask some questions. So again, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Peace.